To the heartbeat of Mother Earth.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Did you say tacos? I'll just do this the second one, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, and my distinguished guests, my name is Marlene Hale, and I am from the Wet'suwet'en Nation. Bonjour, comment ça va? C'est mon nom est Marlene. Je suis à partir de Colombie-Britannique Nord, une petite ville nommée Smithers. Mon peuple, la Wet'suwet'en Nation. I really am so grateful and thankful to be in the beautiful territory. I'm in a place called Barrier, BC, which is about 50 miles out of Kamloops, British Columbia. It is a mild 36 degrees here, very hot. And I just wanted to come and do the introduction out in the beautiful sun, but I'm going to go back in to where it is air conditioned and it's still too hot. Sarah, I'll be back with you in 2 minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marlene. And while you're doing so, I'll just introduce myself and the hub, and then we can get into our conversation. So hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all so much for being here for this installment of our movement series with the Climate Justice Organizing Hub. My name is Sarah Adams. I'm the Anglophone coordinator here at the Hub. And it's an honor to have this opportunity to speak tonight with Marlene Hale. So thank you, Marlene, for making the time to be here tonight. I want to start off our remarks this evening by saying that I'm coming to you tonight from Tiohtià:ke, also known as Montreal. And the Climate Justice Organizing Hub itself as an organization is also based in Tiohtià:ke. So I'm going to mute you there. Sorry, Marlene. We are a support network for grassroots climate organizers across so-called Canada. And in order to learn more about what it means to do a meaningful land acknowledgement, being based on unceded and unsurrendered land, the Hub has sought the counsel of Ellen Gabriel, the renowned Mohawk activist. You can read her full reflection or listen to her full reflection on making meaningful land acknowledgements here. I'll paste this in the chat. And she has sort of full remarks on what it means to make a significant and thoughtful land acknowledgement. And I encourage you all to sit with and listen to her words. In summary, at the heart of her comments, we won't listen to them right here today, but I encourage you to after this, is the acknowledgement that climate justice is essential to weave together this struggle with the fight for Indigenous sovereignty and self-determination, and the work of decolonization that is also bound up with that process. What we were going to be doing tonight is talking a lot also about Indigenous sovereignty, solidarity more broadly, as it weaves in through climate justice communities, as well as land defense and Indigenous communities. And the task ahead for all climate justice organizers is to work in solidarity with Indigenous peoples from coast to coast to coast, and to foreground that in all of our work. So I'm excited to dive into this more as I speak with Marlene, and who I'd like to formally introduce at this moment after your lovely introduction. So Marlene Hale, as she previously introed, is also, she is a Wet'suwet'en elder, activist, chef, and educator who's been deeply involved in activism since January 2019, when Coastal GasLink obtained an injunction against land defenders blocking the construction of the CJL pipeline on Wet'suwet'en territories. Since then, Marlene has continued her advocacy for the Wet'suwet'en Nation, as well as other fights for Indigenous self-determination, such as with the Pacheedaht people and nation and their active defense of old-growth forests at what is called Fairy Creek. Last year, also, Marlene began hosting a weekly webinar series entitled Marlene's Solidarity Action Group, where she collaborated with many organizers and organizations from coast to coast to coast. So Marlene, welcome. Thank you for being here. How are you doing tonight?
I'll just unmute myself here. Thank you for putting there, and it's so wonderful to see. Again, I sure miss Montreal and the work that we have been doing in collaboratively with so many of you in many different ways. And I could see some names and faces: Rachel Veer, Florence La Chapelle, Antoine Dumas, Teo, and Noemi. Oh, I see so many. Sativa, she said today she was going to come and join. She did. Sapide and Francois. Nicholas Chevalier, merci beaucoup, Nicholas. How are you doing? And also, I have Hishao, who is from an activist also from Fairy Creek, who's here, I can see. And thank you so much. And you know, exactly what you said, Sarah, since January the 8th of 2019, since the Coastal GasLink pipeline has invaded the Wet'suwet'en Nation, and it's sadly enough, I've been in the West here since I finished work in Montreal in May to spend 6 months here visiting family, doing a lot of medical, because I've not seen my doctor from the pandemic and family for 3 years now, for most of them. 3 years is a long time to catch up.
That's
and BC is a huge province, so what I do is I just do medical appointments, and then between my appointments, I go visit family and friends that I have not seen for so long. I have
and
been
also, sorry to jump in. Yes. Sorry to jump in. You've also been busy going to cultural events. I saw that you've been going to cinema outings, you've been going to various festivals, powwows also. Recently you were at the Kamloops powwow. How was that? It's been 2 years since.
Yeah, you can show that picture. That was, it's 36th year. That day when I was there, it was 42. When you want to know about climate action, this is a telltale. When it's usually 30 or so in Kamloops, which is the hotspot of BC, and for that to reach up to 42, there was it was quite a beautiful event for me to be able to have the opportunity to speak to the people, because while you're looking for that picture, it's where I'm just in the arena there, where there's a lot of Americans that come up for this, which is nice. It was for me to give the opportunity to speak to the Kamloops people of the 250 children where that started, and to give them my words. It's not of condolence or anything to the nation. It's just letting them know that, like many other people from all across the land, how much we're all in such hardships as Indigenous people, and for what they have discovered there. It was really quite a beautiful moment when the precise moment when I happened to walk into that arena was they just were introducing an elder lady who was one of 9 children surviving in her family of the residential school. She's the last one alive, and so she was able to witness all of what's today, and her spiel on the visitation of the Pope's visit to Canada. And so it was just like a beautiful moment where you have the opportunity to have like 500 Indigenous people in that arena to listen. And I drummed and spoke to them. I just couldn't do more than 5 minutes because 42 is just very hot.
That's extremely hot. Yeah, that's amazing. You're able to do it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So the photo, I'll show it at the end if that's okay. But I think you're wearing as well the same ribbon skirt today that you
Yes, that's
wore.
right.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
the colors in solidarity with Ukraine and their fight for
Yeah.
independence.
And I'll just gonna show it to you right here. This is the skirt that I
Uh,
made. It was made for me in Montreal. It was sent to me when I got to BC. It was in the mail, and as you can see, it's the flowers of the Ukrainian colors, and on each side is a frog, and that's what I am. I'm from the Lexilia clan.
okay, amazing.
You can see that it's in solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en.
Yes, that's wonderful. Yeah, and that's a wonderful homage of bringing those two struggles together in one artistic piece that you get to wear and show. What is the significance for you of wearing a ribbon skirt, bringing those two worlds together?
When Indigenous women are wearing the ribbon skirt, it's to signify that the reason in my mother's time, when women wore skirts, it was always right to the ground. And the reason for that is because it's close to Mother Earth.
Mm.
And so when we're wearing it, we proudly wear it to events and when powwows and special events of Indigenous that. And you can see ribbon skirts are now really given a much of a statement. So the orange one for the Orange Shirt Day, this one is for in solidarity. Other skirts are, they all have a significance. Certain flower to the powwow, when you see it in the Mohawks, they have a special ones compared to the ones in the West, and also different ribbon skirts of the ones that are from Dakota, for instance.
Yes.
So every area, every nation has a different type of ribbon skirt, which is so beautiful to see them all dressed up with their regalia.
Absolutely.
So to me, it's a real honor. And how it became that I became in solidarity with Ukraine was the day that the Ukraine crisis happened. I was doing a talk at the park in Montreal, and it was -30. It was a total whiteout. And I accidentally walked onto the wrong stage. And that was the day the Ukrainians came on, and they were just coming out in tenfold to the same park. And I couldn't see 2 feet in front of me, and I got 3 people to lift me up onto the stage, and then the organizer said, "Oh, that's nice, who are you?" And I'm drumming away, and that's when he said, "I think your event is over there." And then he said, "Hold it." He said, "Your event's at 1:30 and mine starts at 2:30, so maybe you talk to yours, and after the government and Valerie Plante in Montreal talks, then you can talk after." And that's when I did, and let them know that we're, as Indigenous, we are totally in solidarity with Ukraine. And right then I have a website, and it is in solidarity to GoFundMe for Ukraine, and it also is on the other side of other work that I'm doing called systemic racism. So it's on the same website. And the Ukrainian people all across, Indigenous people, we are beaters and we do art, we do many things. So we started this campaign called Beating and Art for Ukraine. And when I've come across Canada, you have no idea how many people have now want to latch on to me. I have an artist named Tom Jackson. I met him in my hometown of Smithers when I was there in May. And he is on a huge GoFundMe for the Ukrainian children. His idea is to raise over $3 million. So
wow.
we're collaborating.
And that's incredible. That's so amazing that you're able to, yeah, see that solidarity across, different nations, different peoples, but still like there's this this humanity and this fight that is in common. What has it been like also playing a very active role in solidarity with your own nation, the Wet'suwet'en? What has that journey been like from January 2020 or 2019, sorry, to now?
It really has, it's like a domino effect. it is like turned on to so many, a tidal wave for me of when it first went, it took the big screen of the world of what's happening in our nation, the Wet'suwet'en Nation, to, for me, actually 3 years after the aftermath of actually going home. And as of today, I have still not set foot on Wet'suwet'en land. I've not been up to the territory, to what we call the Yinta, because they are 70% almost finished on the pipeline. And I get it. I've been warned by many people that the RCMP there are 10 times worse, because the coastal gas link's almost complete, and what we're really fighting is for them to not go under the Witzenklaw River. And the police are just battling with anybody up there. I cannot afford to get arrested or being touched by any of them. There will be a time when I do have the opportunities, per se, when hereditary chiefs are going up or so, I just don't just go drive up there myself. I'm very anxious. I have seen everybody. I've spent the day with a lot of my cousins, which is Frida Hewson from Eunice Doughton and her family, and we just got just to reconnect with everybody that I haven't seen personally, and other cousins, because you know these are my people, my family. And also we have to take into consideration that the hard part of having family, cousins, and people from my nation, some of them work for CGL, so that works. That it makes it, you know, a double standard. But you know, I knew that. I did mention to them one thing, to one of my cousins who does work there. I said, "Does CGL know that I'm here?" And his response to me was, "We love you, Marlene." Meaning, I hope he's meaning to say that we wouldn't do this to you. And you know, in that respect, I will go up there. I do have and plan to. I think you've seen on my webinar many times is a lady named Nancy Topias Tirado. She is the lawyer. She's a human rights lawyer, and she's written her papers on Wet'suwet'en. She lives in Montreal, and she's actually coming up to the territory to speak with Frida Hewson, with Molly Wickham, and also Wasp, the hereditary chief. And that's when we are really working on, you know, one of my sisters and myself and her to go up to the Yinta for the first time. Molly Wickham has just recently almost completed a feast house there. And it is one way that I have met the media in Smithers, who will come in with me and making sure we have a lot of media with us. And I've met them as well as my hometown of Smithers, the mayor, and a lot of people. So I plan on going back and doing a workshop for the town of Smithers on systemic racism, which is a whole new thing we're working on as well.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about that project? So is that, what's the scope of that project?
Absolutely, Sarah. You know, this one is, let me see on if you can see it. I sent the links onto this one, and what this
we'll share it with everyone after.
Yeah, the Justice for Jared he is Wet'suwet'en. He's from the Laxili clan. About a year ago in Camel River, he was defending himself and his dog, where a police dog was killed, and Jared was only told that the police were there to just get a blood sample from him. That was it.
Oh, you may have frozen a bit there. Sorry, everyone, having a little moment. I'm going to turn off my screen, see if that helps. Hello, Marlene, can you hear us? Oh. Hi, hi, Marlene. I think we lost you for a second there. Can you hear me? All right. Sorry, everyone. We're just going to see. Oh. All right. Hopefully she comes back. Sorry about that, everyone. All right. But that, yeah, I mean, anyway, so while we wait for her, that really hit me how that she does not feel safe going home and worried, you know, going back to her own territories. That yeah, just sitting with that for a second is a lot. And that I do really hope that she's able to go back in a safe capacity, and with this feast house and with Molly Wickham, that sounds like a really interesting move forward. And yeah, this really trying time for the Wet'suwet'en and Indigenous folks all across this continent. Does anyone have, maybe while we're waiting to reconnect, I'm going to contact Marlene, but if you have any questions to put in the chat for Marlene when she gets back, we'll also transition to that as well. So please feel free to share any reflections or questions you may have in the chat. All right, I must admit I'm at a bit of a loss. I'm hoping, yes, that we get her back. Yes, that's a great question, Jacqueline. Yes, that's definitely something I wanted to touch on, to check in with her about how she maintains herself and her spirit and her body and her body mind through, you know, this tumultuous time. Oh, she's coming back. Here we go. Yay. Marlene, hello, can you hear us? Oh, we're starting to hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello. Sorry, we lost you in the internet tunnels of the internet there.
I up that it said my internet was on, so I'll just in Minnesota. I'm unmuted now.
I just turned off your video, but go ahead.
Okay. So it was the same in Unistoten with Susan, the CGL has not stopped. Actually, they're about 70% now complete on the pipeline going through. And with me traveling through BC, it's been my second time I just have lost you. I don't know if you're still there, Sarah.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, and it was really sad for me to come to Kamloops the last few days, because that's really where you see an eye view of the other pipeline go all the way from Burnaby's right through the Coquihalla Highway. And it is such an eyesore. Unfortunately, it's like a 4-hour drive, and that's all I see on to my right. And the first time when I drove it, I was just mortified, because last year, as we know, we had a lot of forest fires. We had a lot of big, huge flooding in the lower mainland BC, and what happened there, we knew that part of the pipeline in Burnaby, BC, had exploded, and so all of that was mixed in with the water of the flood water. And
yes, yeah,
I've been interviewing many people around that situation, and in the Fraser Valley now, the growers and the agriculture is really having a huge problem with all of their things, because their soil has got to be so contaminated. I'm a little bit leery of knowing how things really are. I don't know if people are actually taking soil samples, and just that area alone, because that's exactly what a pipeline can do.
Yeah.
And so seeing that, we have had some tense moments last week, because there's been like over 500 lightning strikes, and part of it went to the Unistoten camp, and they had to be evacuated for the one day, but they got the forest fire out, thankfully. And so it's touch and go right where all that pipeline in our territory is going to be. It is going to be a catastrophe all the way down to the water. If they put that under the Witzenqua River, and parts of that does explode, we've lost our territory, number one, to the pipelines, but then we would lose it to a catastrophe, which will be to all of our livelihood of what our Wet'suwet'en people, Indigenous people, are made of, from the wildlife to the fish. The salmon already is
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, the salmon being so central to absolutely your traditional practices. You could tell us more about what the salmon means to you and to your people.
Well, the salmon right now is, let's go back 5 years ago when there was almost 3 million salmon. There was a lot of salmon. We had no worries of anything. The only thing that we did have, because of the fish farms, and that was up, was sea lice. And it was part of the issues of some parts of the salmon coming up north. But on the west coast of Vancouver Island, it was still not too much of an issue, hopefully, at that time. 3 million fish slowly deteriorated into, up to 2 years ago, each family was only allowed 2 fish.
Oh my gosh.
That's a desecration on our people, and as of today, everybody is catching fish. It's finally open at the end of July, and they do what we do is we can it and we dry it. We call it bet, and we really preserve a lot for the winter. And also with the meat, everything with the berries. The berries are plentiful this year. Right. It's just wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we use a lot of that for feasts.
Yes, for sure, of course. So through all this, like this monumental, these shifts, these encroaching, Canadian states, the police, like all these dangers, obviously, to your and your people's way of life. Like, what is it like for you to go through these struggles for justice? How do you tend to yourself? We've got a question from the audience. How do you tend to yourself to keep the fight up?
That's a good question. I've been waiting for this. It's like I'm bursting out thinking we need to get together and speak about so many things that are happening all across the land. And I could see from a lot of the kids from Fairy Creek A lot of them have traveled through all across Canada, who've gone to Wet'suwet'en, back and forth from Fairy Creek to Wet'suwet'en. And a lot of them on the west here are still fighting the court laws, and they really don't care. They put themselves in jeopardy everywhere. And the fact that they are determined, they are very frustrated, and they feel almost like defeated. And they are looking for me almost for solace, in the sense, and I said, we are not giving up. I will not give up. When I get back to Montreal, we got to start we go right back to square one. We have to go back to the drawing board. Climate action, before Greta Thunberg came in and saying that we had 12 years. Well, that 12 years we know is no longer, but we still have to step up the pace and not let the momentum go.
Absolutely. And what keeps you driving forward?
All what I could say driving forward right now, a lot of people are in election mode, and this is where we really got to push forward to them. Indigenous wise, I'm doing this with the Green Party. I'm on the Indigenous Advisory Committee, and I really put in a lot of Indigenous issues. And so I try to do my part in that sense, and then also by doing exactly what we're doing back onto the webinars. I have had oceanographers and the scientists, and just spoke to one who just came up from California. He's on his way to Unistoten, and met with him, and we'll have him on my webinar at some point, just saying, what are the scientists doing today? Where are we at in, of hopes of the emissions, everything else? Give us something. Give me something to work on. And
so building on that, like from your vantage point, what do you see as what is needed next in the climate movement, in the solidarity work with Indigenous groups, and the sort of, the intersection of those two things? What do you see moving forward as the next thing that needs to be tackled?
We have to regain our groups, and this is where it becomes difficult, because regaining our groups after the pandemic is really hard. And so we got to use our voices. We also get back onto the tarmac and really put the word through each and every university there is. And there are a few that I have met that are worldwide. They're doing a worldwide event again, and we have to latch on to that.
And I know through your Solidarity Action Group, you've created this community, this wonderful community, especially amongst like a younger climate activist audience, whom you lovingly call your troublemakers. What has it been like to build that kind of community during this time of the pandemic, of heightened violence against Indigenous peoples, this time of isolation and violence, but also of hope and of a movement? Like, what is in all of those things? What has it been like to build community during this time?
I think that through my webinar, I've had a lot of kids your age. You're 21, you're going to university, you want to get out there, you want to do the work, and you qualify. My troublemakers, because it's good.
Oh, you're just cutting out a bit there.
Very happy you're had come and that
can you hear me, Marlene?
Israel, who had thousands of.
Oh, hello.
Somehow I just keep. I can hear this.
Yeah, sorry, your connection is.
I'm here.
You can. Oh no. Oof, it's rough. Oh, I'm so sorry, everyone. Yeah, there's so much there I want to talk to her about. Oh my goodness, and the internet is keeping us apart.
Always at the juiciest parts.
Yeah.
This is reminding me that I think there's like Blueprints for Change has a resource guide on like organizing in low bandwidth areas. I haven't read it, but I'm wondering if like there's any good tips there for situations like this.
Yes, that
I'll
sounds
check
like
it
a
out.
wonderful resource. Oh, we're back. Hi, Marlene. Can you hear us? Hello. Hi. Hi, Marlene. Yeah, I'm gonna go off video. Can you hear us, Marlene, by any chance? Hello. Hi, Marlene. Can you hear us? Hear me? Hello. Hi, Marlene. Can you hear? For this next stretch, I'm just gonna send Marlene a link to maybe call in, and then we'll have the last 10 minutes, and then we'll go from there. Thank you for bearing with me, everyone. Please, like anytime, please feel free to put any questions or comments in the chat. If you've worked with Marlene, any reflections on your time spent with her, what she's maybe meant to you, or yeah, what it's been like to be in movement spaces. Hello, Marlene. I was wondering if you could try calling in would that be an option?
Not given anything, I don't know.
Oh. Hello? Hi, Marlene. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm just gonna send her a quick message to connect via phone. Let's try that.
Are you there, Sarah?
Hello.
Hi, Sarah. Hi.
Hi. I can hear you.
Good girl.
Amazing. Hi. Oh, I'm glad we got you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's keep going.
So we're just talking about not losing our momentum.
Yes, and like building
And that
communities
is
right now.
even from this Zoom, we just can't lose the momentum of
Never.
from the West Coast to the East Coast, and that's where we are. Today, as I see some of the people that are on are from Fairy Creek, and they have a big testament of where I have been for 6 months of last year in Fairy Creek, where the old forest growth. There is the biggest battle. It was the same thing with Teal Jones, which want to go in and log these most beautiful big trees. And without all that happening, they just have no idea that BC is The Fairy Creek is like the same thing that we're fighting for in all across Brazil, and it's the Brazil of the world for the the climate crisis. I was in Victoria last year when we had the big storm,
Yeah.
and within an hour, the place that I was with, the outside, looking outside, within an hour, it was like a lake. When we had the river, the clouds of a river coming down, and which doesn't happen that often, and it really clearly shows you what's going to happen with these huge big storms coming, and they hit the west coast. And we were talking just 2 days before how 80 years from now, Richmond, BC, which a lot of them shouldn't be built where they are, is going to be slowly underwater. And parts of Vancouver Island is in peril.
Yeah.
And the parts that we are fighting for, the what you call the old forest growth, is still a battle that we will just not give up. And it all starts with an elder. His name is Elder Bill Jones. He's 84, bless his heart, wonderful man. And he really puts a lot of fight into, he has done for the last 40 years. One of the first webinars that I had on there, he was the guest with alongside with Vicky Husband, who she's got the Order of Canada, who's worked also for the last 40 years for the old forest growth, has showed that's just how far back they have been fighting to know how critical it is now. Where if you took 100 people it'd take about 50 people to stand around how one of these huge big trees was 3,000 years old.
Yeah.
There's only two that we got, the grandfather tree and another tree left. And on the island, it's really hurtful for people driving up down who really care about the climate, because they're seeing these logging trucks with bigger and bigger trees yet. Even though the government, the NDP government has stated through forest management that they are not going to go out there, will be leaving these. That's just not true. It's just not true. It's not been happening. And so that fight, along with with not just a pipeline, all across, look what's going in northern Quebec. And we have to go from nation to nation, and from all across Canada, to really put in one heck of a big movement. The hub's you got to multiply tenfold to get started, really. And, to get everyone involved from, once I get back to Montreal, I'll be back there in October. And, to start putting some really big action movements out there again. That it's got to be a different way to get the message across. So that's one of the things that we have been trying to think about. Whatever's happened before, we can't shut down Canada. We know that. It's not been effective. It can't be anything like that where you're going to get, each person will go to jail, where it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to get out. That's not effective anymore. The only thing we do have left is the government, and we know that the elections are coming up there. We have to push tenfold on that. The universities have to start standing behind us. Starting from McGill and the Université de Montréal and Concordia, where the actions have been in front of their eyes. They have lost a lot of statues. The message has been there, but they're just, the message is you don't get it. We need you to snap out of it.
And for more on that, like on the power of students and fighting for divestment and other sort of initiatives like that. What do you see that what do you see as possible there in that space?
Well, we did it in 2012, and we can regain that strength again. And we just need the proper leaders of the movements to get out there and amalgamate. And there is a lot that movements I have been involved with in Montreal. We just have to be cautious and careful of the ones that we are, because the last one I did last February took a turn where they were arrested at the very end of it, but it was still clear from the amount that came out.
Yeah.
In -30, that they're serious about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many folks who are standing up more and more, and there is this, this groundswell. Absolutely. But there's also, unfortunately, at the same time as we are, we're gaining momentum, but there's a lot of, unfortunately, I think, disappointment in our leaders in the current moment, things that are turning a lot of youth, but everyone, but especially youth who are very vulnerable to climate grief, as it were. What are your experiences with working with youth who are in that place of, losing hope, feeling unwell? I know that you talk about climate grief often. What has been your experience with that?
I have been speaking, Sarah, to a lot of kids your age here from Fairy Creek who've been to their McGill students. They're UVic students, they're the UBC students, and a lot of them, it's something I never knew, that a lot of it's a culture that I don't know why was I just living under a rock? I didn't understand this, that a lot of the kids today are eating out of bins. And I said, why? And because they can, number one, they can't afford it. And they're in Vancouver and Victoria, it's a double, because Vancouver is very expensive. Let's just say Lucy, one of my McGill students, she works here, and she was saying to me just a couple of weeks ago, I really don't have a social life. I can't really see my friends because we just can't afford to go out and do things like we used to. We have to pay our rent. And from our rent, we've got our utilities. After I got my gas, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
And she's lucky that she's one of the luckier ones that she works in a restaurant industry. So she gets a meal, that type of thing. A lot of other ones don't. Victoria really shocked me. They're very proud of being able to eat out of bins, because this is one of the biggest reasons they are vegan and vegetarian, so they don't have to eat or have to spend or look at another dollar for that factor. Biggest thing for them is the climate.
Yeah.
And so that goes all across. I said, yes, you're no different than anybody across. I've been all across this land and I hear the same thing. Vancouver, when I was in Montreal last February, they were asking me in one association, when was I coming out to Vancouver, which I did speak to. I spoke to about 25 youth there, and all about suicide and about climate trauma and how are they all feeling. And I said, I'm just going to open the door for you. I know it may be hard for most of you to speak about what you're going through. And I know that you're going through it. There's a lot of fear because I could see it in your eyes. And I'd like to take that fear from you to saying that, okay, what can we do? This is where we can start. This is what we got to do. We got to make bullet points starting from the youth, because they're the ones that are doing the work today, and you're the 8th generation. This is for you to have a happy life tomorrow. So they're searching to me for answers, and I said the only answer that I could say is just to continue the fight, the battle. I'm listening to you. I hear you. I will take your stories, and I think about this on you also all the time. We know that the Indigenous people, when you do go through hardships, there is help out there for all of this. The climate trauma, just really make sure that you go start at home with your parents. And you know something, this was the sad part. A lot of them couldn't. And that's why they were where they are today. I get some of them from the 20 kids that I was talking to, is like, my parents will say to me, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I said, that's where you got to sit your parents down and just say, Mom and Dad, I'm really afraid, and I'm afraid mostly because you're not supporting me. You're not supporting this. I feel like I'm alone. And don't be hard. Don't be afraid to take the words out and put it. Maybe if it's easier for you to put it on a piece of paper, talk to a friend, then bring it to your family. and to saying we need to do this together. And I feel like I'm alone, and you can't be alone in this world.
No.
And that's the trauma that they are dealing with.
Yeah.
And most of them, I mentioned, is to possibly stay away from the social media, because that's making it more, hampering it more of a problem.
And what has it been like for you to be in that position as an elder to sort of guide, you know, people through?
Well, I would say to, as a group, I would just say, if you were all my own children, I would talk to you and I'd have you in a circle. And in this circle, it's called a healing circle. And we've had this so many times. If we heal ourselves just through our breathing, we'll be fine going into this discussion. And we're going to talk about starting, just like any other problem. How do you feel? And around that circle, I pass them a rock. I hold the rock when I'm talking. When I'm finished, I pass that rock. Around the circle, it goes that, and everybody has their chance to speak. When they do, this is where you really hear from each and every one of them what their true feelings are about this planet and what are we going to do about it. So they've only got an hour, and by the time the hour comes, it's fine if they've all had their turn to talk. It's a step forward. The next time we get together, we'll talk about another item. You can't do it in one meeting of an hour like we can today. It's just a start. And so what is happening, you know, at this one, so I went to this meeting when I left. I just said that we have to reach out to the 1-800 numbers, unfortunately now, and then it goes into another a failure of the medical. And a lot of them, they just get, they don't get any help at all.
Yeah.
So it's just like the dominoes effect. It gets one from one to the bad. So, you know, we really fight a lot of things from one to the other to reach the height of having anything possibly done about the situation. But at least they walk away with thinking, thank you for listening. And we are going to move forward. Can we meet again? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they know that not only there's yourself there in the East, there's a lot of people on that are listening, that each one of us, we tell 10 people, we'll all get out there and we'll get out a lot more.
No, listening is so powerful. And obviously you need to couple that with so many other things, being in community, seeking out help, searching for, you know, there's so many resources that need to be, but being in nature, obviously, like, these are not just anything on their own, but in tandem, like a holistic kind of community sort of level of trying to reach out to many different things to support us in this difficult time. How does your relationship to like your culture and teachings inform how you show up yourself in movement spaces, in this movement?
That's where I really put myself out a lot more than I have in the past. I always do my drumming. I always have my culture so strong. It's always been strong with as a chef 25 years ago. I was a chef by trade, and it was in with my food, my culture, my language and speaking. And I really pushed that even further because identity is very strong, and it's also something you really got to protect, because people are out there in full force of Indigenous solidarity. And so I really push forward, you know, my culture, number one, has always been strong with me. And just with what I wear and my drum itself is just, you know, that's been all over the world with me. And it's something that is my true solace that I have. So anything I talk with my drum. And the second thing I talk about, I tell everybody, my heart.
Yeah. Yes. Well, your heart has been fully, you know, open to us here tonight. So thank you so much for sharing your heart and everything with us tonight. I know it was a short hour and we had some bumpy roads there, but I really appreciate you sticking around and everyone else doing so to listen to your words and to your heart. So,
thank you so much.
Is there anything you would like to, we're going to share with everyone afterwards, the lovely projects you're working on right now. So everyone, I'll follow up with you in an email with some things that Marlene is doing that you can support. Is there anything else you'd like to, for lack of a better word, plug right now?
I think, yeah, Sarah, I would just like to end it with the fact that I'm really happy that we're doing this today. I'm happy for all the ones that have organized. And I hope a lot more organization people go in collaboration with Hub. And that tomorrow you gain 100 people. And the next day you gain another 100 from each province, from each person tonight. There is some people on the webinar that were on tonight that were from Fairy Creek. I'm going up to Fairy Creek on the 10th. And, again, that's what we're doing there. We're not letting up. And we're there with Elder Bill Jones. And we're reuniting. So we've just got the word out that we are back in Fairy Creek. We are not letting up. Maybe that's one thing we have to have for Montreal, have a date that everybody rejoin by the 15th of October, at the end of October, or something like that, a date where we have at least 1,000 reunited in Montreal.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that grows.
Yeah, we could talk about that. That'd be really cool.
Yep, and that's where I'd like it, because that's what they're doing in the West here.
Yeah,
and
coming
they're really
together,
trying
building power together, and through community.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yes,
and that's
so much.
That's where a lot of people united. We are stronger together, right? We have each other, and there's a lot of us.
Yeah.
And we have to by whatever date that you have, they've already set a date for Fairy Creek. It's September 10th, and I'm making sure that next week I'm moving myself back more to Vancouver and then to Vancouver Island, and I will be there with Elder Bill Jones in solidarity with Fairy Creek. Wow. And at the end of September to October, I will be back in Wet'suwet'en, my nation, again, before I leave back for Montreal for the winter. Right. And so I just go back and do some final work before I leave, and let them know that this is what's happening in the East. It's stronger than ever.
Absolutely. Well, yes, thank you so much for that. It's absolutely. Thank you so much for this. Thank you to everyone who came out. And if you'd like to follow up with the Hub and see what we are doing, we have a mailing list that you can get on to find out more about our events, our conversations, like with movement leaders like Marlene, workshops to make sure you as a grassroots organizer and your organization are stronger, all that good stuff. So please follow us there. And again, thank you, Marlene, for your time and your heart. And thank you everyone else as well.
Oh, thank you all so very much, Sarah. And I'm sorry about the internet. I don't know what happened here. I'm in a town that it's about 10,000 people moved in. There's a huge big rodeo happening.
Oh, amazing. Are you going to go?
Yeah, I got to go check this one out.
Okay, amazing.
My sister's working there, so I want to see what this is about. Yeah, so and thank you all so very much, and Jacqueline Lee Tam and Florence and Leonard and Leonard and who else we still have? Sally Livingston, and you're also welcome. Nice to see everybody. He's the one who's from Fairy Creek. Teo Sepide, he's 82 years old, living in Vancouver, and he just put on 2 weeks of house arrest for standing up for the forest. Oh my God. There's many like him that were still. I was just happened to be in Vancouver when he was going to his sentencing, and just there in support with him, and letting many of them know that when I am in Vancouver, I do try to be everywhere for everyone, and on really important days like this, standing up for Mother Earth. It's so important. Yeah. Masai, and thank you all so very much.
Thank you. All right. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, Sarah.
Good night. Thank you.